Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director Event Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women brand marketers today. And with me is Kristen Schumacher. She is the CMO of Nehemiah. Did I say it right?
Got
Yes.
it. You got it.
And Nehemiah is a manufacturing company. You guys produce things like household cleaning goods, and you produce them for like the PGs of the world and that kind of thing, correct? Just so
Yep.
people know exactly what Nehemiah does. So, anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this.
No, thanks for having me, Lisa. I'm excited to have a conversation today.
Yeah, did you mention your Michael, your husband William mentioned that we've actually spoken on the phone and he was part of one of our summits?
Yes, you told me.
Yeah, he was awesome. So that was in a previous life, but we'll touch on things like that. But
Yeah.
first, I just want to start off with where you are, Nehemiah.
Mhm.
You really do. You have a cool program there. It's
Yeah.
all about. It's called Second Chance Program, and it's really about giving people a second chance, giving former inmates a second chance. And you've hired, I think, like 70% of your employees are have a criminal record,
Yep.
and which I think is amazing. It's such a great policy, such a great program that I know you're one of the number ones. Your company is one of the number ones who are part of that program, and I think more and more people should obviously initiate that. But
Mhm.
why is it that a second chance is so important to you? That giving someone a second chance, not only just within your organization and within the second chance program, but just in general.
Yeah, it's a great question. I always like to describe second chances in a way that we all deserve one and we all have a second chance story. It's just every individual story may look different.
Mhm.
So to us, we're super passionate about giving opportunity and second chances through employment because we truly believe that everyone should have an opportunity to rewrite their story. And I could speak to many second chances in my own personal life, whether that's through a failed previous business and coming back to Nehemiah. But ultimately, we're just super passionate about second chances because we want to see people have an opportunity to thrive. And most of the family members that we have here wouldn't probably have had that opportunity, especially in our country. When you look at second chance employers, like you mentioned, Lisa, one, we were the first, but also, some of the few across the country. And so when you have millions of people coming out of prison every single year, that number is staggering. And
Yeah.
so there's millions of people if you don't have companies like Nehemiah across the country that are willing to invest in people and see past a record that wouldn't otherwise have a second chance. So I mean, second chances to us are we just want to see people thrive and have an opportunity to rewrite their stories. So it's to
And
our core.
I mean, and also just and getting to your program, also when you look at it, you're doing something great for these people, but if people don't want to get involved except to be on a selfish mode, it's also making things better, because if people aren't employed, then they're going to turn back to maybe things that they wouldn't necessarily be doing if they had the finances, if they had the steady job, if they're much more part of the community. There's just like
Yep.
there's benefit there for everyone, so I just feel like, and I think that that can be the case in any second chance. Someone may suddenly achieve something or do something that if they hadn't been given that second chance, we never would have experienced that. So it's just a great policy, I think, to have in general. So that's
Yeah.
really awesome that you guys are doing that. You touched on it a little bit, but I did want to ask you, have you been given that second chance? What is it? And you mentioned a little bit about your failed business, but let's even talk about something else. Like, what has there been something else where someone, some whatever, gave you that second chance and it helped you to thrive?
Yeah, I mean, countless, truthfully. I was an athlete all of my life growing up, so I could speak to countless coaches in my life that gave me opportunity after opportunity. One thing, Lisa, that really comes to mind for me, and I don't usually share this often, but it was my sophomore year in college. I was playing basketball. I was actually sexually assaulted and drugged. And I decided to take that individual to court and to use my voice to stand up for a crime that's also just, the numbers are staggering. And so when you said that, I was like, you know what, my second chance, when I look at an opportunity in my life that really transformed, um, really the trajectory of my career, was having a second chance opportunity where I transferred to Ohio State. And that department took something that was so horrendous for me, that was so traumatic, and made it such, it gave me an opportunity and a platform to use my voice to turn something so negative into something that I could champion, and that I could, really spearhead and help try to change the paradigm and the dynamics, especially from a university perspective, of how universities treat their students, and really help women and come alongside them, to really say, hey, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I believe you. And we want to be a part of helping you move out of such a traumatic experience, and put you in a position where you can thrive. So Ohio State did that for me. And like I said, it really gave me an opportunity to use my voice for good. And we changed a lot of situations on the campus in general. And I was a big part of that. I was co-chair on their sexual assault committee. And so when I look at Ohio State, I'm just so grateful for that opportunity. And the police and the law enforcement that stood beside me and helped me look into, what are my rights, behind Title IX, and how can I use that for my voice to look at where I was wronged at my previous university. And so, when you just said that, I'm like, I could speak to so many situations in my life where I was given a second chance, like a failed business or through playing sports all my life. But I also think about the stories that are here in these walls in Nehemiah. And I think, if a family member would ever see this interview, that they could say, wow, Kristen has a second chance and isn't afraid to share her second chance story. Because obviously the family members here that do share their story are very brave, because they're vulnerable stories. They're hard stories to tell. And I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, I'm so sorry that you went through that, but I mean, that's amazing that you moved it the way you did. And I'm not blaming women who don't. I mean,
Right.
I
Right.
can't imagine. And it's just how everyone deals with it is going to be their own way, and it's going to be right for them. But the fact that you were not only able to move forward and make a difference for future students in Ohio State, and also just it helped to shape you, I would think. You know what I mean? Like if you could have reacted a different way, and then you would have, the trajectory, as you said, would have been very different. And
Yep.
so you used your voice, saw that, I'm sure gave you, that make you feel power, or strength in what you were doing, and
Yep.
then saw that you had these results, good results. So that must impact you maybe when you come up against other things that probably seem so much less, other
Mhm.
challenges. It must seem that, and that must make it a little bit not easier, but just more, you can be a little bit more relentless about moving forward and really facing your challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think that the power that we have is in our stories and using our voices to make a difference. And at the end of the day, for me, it's really just about sharing my story to make a difference with one person. If that is all that ever happens, like that is enough. And that's what we encourage our family members here when they have the opportunity to share their story. And they will say that to you. They will say, hey, I want to share something that was painful, because if it helps just one person, if
Yeah.
someone can say on the other side and hear their story, my story, and say, wow, she was brave, he was brave and vulnerable to share something, I can do that too. That's what matters at the end of the day.
No, I agree. And thank you for sharing that, because it is. I mean, I do think it's probably not easy even now to still talk about it, but I think, as you said, even if that one person, or, the millions that are watching us right now will see that, and just if they've experienced it, and just, or if they know someone who has, and maybe they know how to, you know, better respond, or just makes them feel not as alone, so I think that's
Exactly.
really important.
Yeah.
Um, it's hard to segue from that, but getting into really, again, what it sounds like, even like you mentioned, you started your own, you co co-launched your company with your husband,
Yep.
and I think it was an amazing idea. It was like it was all healthy and all,
Mhm.
and you were baking, and so like I just remember from my conversations with William, and
Yeah.
just it's obviously things you take the chance and you don't know which way it's going to go. But with your career trajectory, I mean, you were at Nehemiah for a bit, then you went to a couple of other places, then back to Nehemiah, then launched your own business with your husband, and now back at Nehemiah. So it's just, I think it's wonderful that some people feel like they got to keep moving in another direction. And I think that when you see the opportunities, you have to go after the opportunities that are right. I love that you did that, but I want to back it up a little bit. When you were first starting out, when you were first graduating, and now that I know what happened to you at school, I'm sure that influenced what your feelings were. But how were you envisioning your path in terms of, were you seeing yourself to starting another business, to your own business, or talk about that and what really led you to where you are today?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I actually got my undergraduate degree in psychology. And I would back up even when I was younger. I had a huge passion just in general to help people and to want to make a difference. And so I decided, hey, I really want to study psychology. And I had this very tunnel vision of I wanted to get my doctorate in clinical psychology and really help people with severe mental illnesses and drug and alcohol addiction. Which if you fast forward here today, sitting at Nehemiah, obviously psychology plays a big part in marketing, but also with the family members that we employ. So it definitely is full circle for me. So when I graduated, I really just had a passion to go to grad school, and that was the plan. And then quickly decided, I don't know if this is for me. I almost had a savior complex of I have to be the one that saves these people, and I really took that on myself, and then said, okay, that's not the right approach, and that's ultimately going to crush me. But how can I use the giftings and the strengths that I have to focus on making a difference one person one day at a time? And that's what got me into the creative world, the ad world, marketing. That's where I started at Nehemiah. And then when William and I met, he was coming out of Procter and Gamble. He worked on Olay. I was obviously working here on brand at Nehemiah, and we wanted to launch a business together. And obviously, it came from a passion to bring something to the marketplace that has purpose and that can impact people's lives. And we did that through food. And so we did that for a few years and landed us on Shark Tank, and we scaled that DTC business up across the country. But then ultimately, as you know, we closed the doors on that business, and now we both work at Nehemiah. So it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, but no, I mean, like I said, I think that whole, just this, how many people say I want to do this? Like I want to create like this whatever product, or I want
Yeah.
to start my own business. And they're sitting there talking about it in the bar with their friends and having all these big ideas, but they don't actually do it. So that completely says something about you, that you did it.
Mhm.
Whatever the results are, I mean, of course you'd be thrilled if, you were now this multi-million dollar
Yeah,
company that do, because it was your passion. But at the same point, you did it, and it's not, you'll never have to look back and say, what if? Like, I think that's
totally.
the really important thing.
Yeah. And ultimately, I never look at situations like that as a failure. It's just we learned a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
And I have personally a very entrepreneurial spirit. I grew up in an entrepreneurial home. Nehemiah is run by my dad. And so I saw him persevere, go through challenges, hard times. I mean, the day to day, it's a grind, but it's really waking up every single day with a passion and really truly understanding your why. And for me, my why wasn't, oh, I want to scale a healthy food business. My
Mhm.
why was, I really want to make a difference and an impact. And I want to bring things to the marketplace that are going to change people's lives. And so when you really know your why, you can always fall back on that, even if there are instances like in my journey, Uprising failed. I mean, my why is still the same. My why has never changed. And I took that into now Nehemiah and leading the entire marketing department. So I think that's something that's really critical, and that's to my core. And that's also what I saw my dad, how he lived his life and how he's been able to grow successful business after business, because his why was really, it was simple, and it was wanting to make a difference one person one day at a time. And that was preached to me my whole life. And so when you know your why, you can always implement and grow and learn and evolve.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, and maybe this is your advice to know your why. Like that for that person who's talking about wanting to start up, maybe they're love making cupcakes and they want to start up their own cupcake bakery or whatever it may be, and they have a passion for it. But for that entrepreneurial person who does want to start something, is
Yeah.
there something like, is there a challenge that they need to realize or something they need to plan? And I'm not saying, obviously you want to put together a marketing plan and a business plan and all of that, but
Mhm.
something that you sort of came across maybe that surprised you that you didn't really think would be that difficult or you didn't expect maybe.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, definitely, I would say know your why. I would say the second thing is that starting something new, whatever it is, requires a lot of courage and boldness. Everything you outlined is true too, right? You need a marketing plan, you need a financial plan. But at the end of the day, how I approach having perseverance and being able to continue to, really just be a high performer is because I can stand on the principle that being bold is not something that I feel, it's just something that I do. So in moments that I want to launch something and maybe it's a little scary or I'm not sure what the trajectory or the growth plan is going to truly look like, I do it anyway. And you do it even if you're a little scared or afraid of what the outcome is going to be. Because if you have that posture and you approach anything new with that lens, there's always going to be success on the other side, regardless of what the outcome is. So that's how I like to also measure success. I think that would be one advice I would give to you is success to me is not necessarily what is the growth, like, achieving $150 million
Fine and
business.
all of that. Yeah.
Success is, did you do it? Did you have the courage? Were you bold to try? And if you were, great, that I would say that that is successful.
Yeah. No,
And
I
that's been
agree.
my journey. And that's also what I saw my dad do time after time. So
Well, obviously had a good role model with it. And I do agree. I think so many, and women especially, but men as well, let fear and not doing something perfectly
yeah.
stop them from doing so many things. Like it's just like I will want to do something, but I'm like, if I can't, if it's out of my wheelhouse, if it's something that I'm afraid I can't perfect,
Hmm.
then it really sometimes freezes me. It
Yeah.
it like I procrastinate, I make excuses, I whatever, and I don't think I'm alone. I think so many, like I said, I think women tend to, but I think everyone can do that. And it's just like, so how did you ever have that fear initially? How did you, and if you did, how did you get past it?
Yeah, great question. And one thing I want to say, to build on what you said about being perfect, I always preach to my team, especially when we have projects, to not let perfection get in the way of executing. Because I think, Lisa, what you said, you hit the nail on the head that, especially for women, so much anxiety, fear can cripple us, especially if perfection is the goal, because perfection is impossible to achieve. We're never going to. Just starting should be the goal. I would say, for me, I just truly look at life of, if I do not try, then that is me just allowing fear to keep me from what is on the other side. And so I really just try and block out as much of that noise as possible and really just have tunnel vision and really just saying, what is the next right thing? What is the next right move? Because otherwise, there's so much noise, especially inside all of us.
In our
And
head.
we are our own worst critics. And the voices that we can listen to, that we tell ourselves, could really keep us from living out our own unique purposes and allowing our strengths to really play out and impact the people around us and what we're doing in the day to day. So for me, I try and just block out as much of that as possible, and just really stay focused on what is the here and now. What can I do today? How can I make a difference today? And that allows me to really not let fear really even enter into my thoughts and what I do day to day.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier is really important, that, because a lot of the fear comes from afraid to fail. And as you said, you don't feel like you failed because you did it and you had your successes and you took that chance and you were bold. So right there, you're successful. Now,
Yep.
what comes after that is what comes after that, and you have no control to a point. So it's a matter of, and I think that that's a huge thing that all of us need to sort of say, it's not about failing. I mean,
Mm.
everyone, any of the biggest minds, the most successful people, they're like, we failed so many times and it's okay because it got us to the next point. And I think we need to get that attitude as opposed to, oh no, what are people going to think, or that
Yep.
kind of thing. So I do think that's such a really positive attitude that you have. I noticed I always do my snooping.
I love it.
I noticed that you partnered with Tim Tebow and his wife, Demi Lee.
Yep.
And you had commented on one of his LinkedIn posts. So I want to read what it said. He said he and his wife. So he said that he and his wife, they have a list of non-negotiables that we live by that help define our values and what is important to us. One of those non-negotiables is everyone matters. Now that
Mm.
obviously is talking to the Second Chance program that's where you guys partnered with. So I want to ask you, and getting away from that, the Second Chance program, what's your non-negotiable?
Mm. Wow, that's a great question. What's my non-negotiable? Um, I would say that, I mean, I'm like, do I want to echo Tim? Because that's true.
No,
Everyone.
we're not echoing Tim as smart and everything that we love what he has to say, but I want it to be something that outside of what we've been discussing, something else within, maybe in your personal life or whatever it may be, something that's just non-negotiable in your life. I mean, it could be as simple as a smoker, that you won't hang out. I don't know. Like it doesn't have to be some big thing, but it also can be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me it's okay, let's take I'm like a non-negotiable. That's a great question, Lisa. You're kind of like stumping me here because I'm like um non-negotiable. I think ultimately a non-negotiable for me is like not, how do I want to say this bluntly and clearly? I believe firmly that there's always, especially in the world of conflict, hardship, that there's 100% of the pie, that even if I think I'm absolutely right, I didn't do anything wrong, that I can find at least 1% that I can own. A non-negotiable for me truly is when I come across people that can't find that.
Right.
I think that is someone that's really difficult, whether it's in my personal life to have personal relationship with, or whether it's even at work. Accountability to me is so critical. And so a big non-negotiable is if you can't find your 1%, that's going to be a non-starter.
Yeah. No,
Because there's always something we can find to own and to apologize for.
yes, or you to own, but also to respect the other person's
Yeah.
whatever it may be, whether it's, talking ideas or talking something at work, and you figure out, all right, where it's going to go, but you can agree to disagree. You can see their side on certain things. I think it's just about being open-minded and also accepting of, hey, maybe I could do this wrong, or I hate excuses. Like when
Yeah.
people right away jump in and say, well, this happened, so I didn't do this. And it's like, I don't really care about that. It's not that I don't care about it. I'm not trying to be heartless, but the fact is just own it, as you said, and just say, you know what? I get that now. I'm gonna do better. I won't do that moving forward, or whatever it may be. As
Yeah.
opposed to when you're using excuses, you're not owning it. You're just sort of saying
Exactly.
that's why I didn't do it, as opposed to I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I totally agree with that. So, well, keeping with Tim,
Mhm.
He also, you had reposted one of his, which I love this one. He wrote, having a clear vision isn't just about seeing the way, it's about inspiring others to see it too. Okay, so what is a vision that you see that you are inspiring or trying to inspire others to see?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say the biggest vision right now for me that I really want other people to see, let's stay on Nehemiah, is that
Mhm.
our products that are household cleaning products that are right behind me are made by Nehemiah. And to me, obviously being a marketer, I'm really passionate about the consumer and knowing the consumer inside and out and making sure that we have superior products that the consumer loves. But really, a vision I have, and I've been challenging my team, is how do we get our everyday consumer to understand that these products are made with purpose and that they're made by Nehemiah? That's a true, unique competitive advantage that we have, especially with younger generations. We know from data that younger generations now want to be a part of brands that are making a difference, that are making an impact. They want to tie their name and their hard-earned money to brands that are making a difference in our communities across the country. So right now, I would say my clear vision is executing that and executing that with excellence and really trying to connect those dots, because as you can probably imagine, it's a mouthful. It's not intuitive to the everyday consumer when they go buy a Tide to Go pen or Downy Wrinkle Releaser, that those aren't P&G brands, they're Nehemiah brands. That's really hard to come across in packaging and advertising, but it's a vision that I'm very passionate about and one that I want to try and drive clarity and simplicity so that the consumer knows, hey, this is made by Nehemiah. Starting to pull back those layers. And then also internally for my team to know this is what we're chasing after. And this is going to ooze out into the efforts and what we're putting out in the marketplace and our overall strategies. So that is one, Lisa, that's clear vision for me. That's what I'm chasing after, and one that we're really passionate about.
No, I think that's great. And if we were getting ready for one of my summits, I have like 5 questions. My cap just went on for my marketing to ask you about that. Just out of curiosity, do you do D2C as well, or are you all just be to the businesses? What is it? Do
B2B.
you, yeah, B2B. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. We basically, I mean, we're in every retailer across the country. We do play on Amazon, some e-com on like Walmart.com, Target.com, but Nehemiah doesn't have our own like direct to consumer. So
Got it. So, but no, yeah, there's like, I would be like, well, how are you breaking through the noise? How are you having
yeah.
people think like, but we won't go there right now. But no,
Hey,
I
for
do.
another time, I'd love to. That's
Yeah,
my
definitely. So what people get wrong about you when they first?
passion. Great question. I think what people would get wrong about me is I am very direct and I am very passionate. And at times that could probably come across that I don't care as much as I really do, because I care with every inch of my bone and my being. And if people knew the things that kept me up at night, I think would understand me a little bit better. So I would say that's probably the biggest one, especially I'm sure you have experienced this as females. It can be challenging, especially in male culture and work environments, when you're a high performer, but also, aggressive or very passionate, that can come across, a certain way that it's not meant to. And so I would say that's the biggest one, especially being, CMO in the business sector that I'm in. The passion, the energy, the approach that I have sometimes could be misunderstood.
Yeah, no, and I think that women tend to get called like the B word, or they're just, they come across, I don't know, for lack of a better word, nasty or just
Yeah.
mean. And it's just, but where if it was a man, he's a strong, guy. He's saying what he thinks. And I
Yes.
do think, and also which to, so I, on that end, but then what it happens is many women temper it or
Hmm.
don't necessarily voice, especially women starting out. Like, did you ever
Yeah.
have that? I mean, it sounds like you've been fairly strong. You speak out, so perhaps you never experienced that. But for just even younger women in your on your team or coming in and maybe looking to you as a mentor, and maybe they're trying to find their voice. How do you recommend that? Because it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you are in a lower level. And well, I think even when you have women above you, like
Yeah.
I would love to put it all on men, but honestly, I've had people both on both sides of it that I've had to have, wonder where I can speak up and not. So I'm curious, what would you advise to that person starting out or in their mid-level range, but they want to get their voice out?
Yeah, it's a great question. One, I do think experience does help. I would say that I haven't always been as confident and vocal as I am today. A lot of that came from experience and, especially with Uprising and really leaving Nehemiah and doing something on my own that was outside of my dad's shadow and really seeing what I was truly made of, to that really helped with my overall confidence and how I just approached the day to day. So I would really, one, just empathize and sympathize with someone and say, hey, don't ever compare yourself to where I am today because I have experience and I've had to go through hard things. And also, I've learned along the journey that leadership can be a little lonely sometimes. And that's why it's so critical to have a really strong group of community that know you, that can pour into you, that can champion you and encourage you in moments of not feeling as courageous or confident. And so I think that's really, really critical. And then I would also say, just be really laser focused and stay in your lane and really trying to eliminate all distractions. I think, especially in today's world, it's easy to compare. Comparison is the thief of all joy. So for me, I've just tried to say, what is Kristen great at? What can I do? And what can I do today? It sounds simple, but truly just being really laser focused, knowing that I have something of value to bring to the table. And that's going to look different than everybody else in the room. And as it should. And not everyone is going to have the same voice that I have. And that's okay too. Because that would probably be challenging to be in a room of all voices like mine. So we need everyone's each individual unique strengths and how they come to the table to really make a holistic team work. So that would be my encouragement is, hey, experience, some of it comes with experience, but also just be who you are and don't be afraid to speak up. And ultimately,
Wrong. Or even if it's not not wrong, I don't mean that, but even if your boss or whoever in the room sort of says, "Oh, good idea, but no, we're gonna go this way." That's okay. You at least were able to they could see where you were thinking.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, that's how you learn too, by asking questions, by challenging leaders and thought thinkers. I mean, that I tell my team, challenge me, push back on me. Just because I'm giving direction or making the decisions doesn't mean that you can't come to me and have a different opinion or challenge what I'm putting in front of the team. I value that. I want that. And that ultimately is going to make all of us better. So
Really agree. What's your guilty pleasure?
my guilty pleasure. Oh gosh, Lisa. Okay. My guilty pleasure is reality TV. I don't know about you, but that is my guilty pleasure. I'm not a big TV girl. I'm actually very like routine oriented and I don't really utilize a ton of downtime, but that is the one thing that I'm like, I can
You
watch some
binge
reality.
it? Is it sneak it in here or there? Like what's the rule? And what reality TV do you go for? What's on the list?
Oh man, okay. I'm gonna show the dark side of me, but it's like reality, like Real Housewives. It's, not the best TV. But it's really just every once in a while. I have two little boys, and so I don't have a ton of free time on my hands, but it's those moments when I do want to kind of just decompress and not be in my own thoughts is
Yeah.
when I will turn that on.
Yeah. And a great family viewing with your two boys.
Yeah. Yeah, thankfully they're not in the room when that's going on.
True. All right. Before we finish, I want to just, we all have like big goals and we've talked about it a little bit and whatever, but what's your daily goal? What's that, that makes, okay, makes today good.
Yeah. Well, first, I always want to be a great mom and a great wife. I love what I do here at Nehemiah, but first and foremost, I'm a wife and a mom. And so every day I wake up with, how can I love my kids well? How can I encourage them? How can I learn about them more so that I can speak into their strengths and who they are becoming? And so that, to me, at the end of the day, when I go to bed, I'm like, if my kids feel loved and seen, that is the most successful day I could have. Following that, obviously it's the day to day here at Nehemiah. Really put work aside. It's what gets me out of bed is, how can I make a difference with our family members here? And how can I get down on the floor and see people and talk to them and ask how their day is going? That is when I feel the difference. Because like I said earlier, the business is a grind. I mean, it can be really challenging day in and day out. So I really challenge myself every day to get down on the floor, walk the warehouse, be on the manufacturing lines, and just talk to people. And the days I do that and the days I don't are night and day. I notice a shift in just how I show up. And I would say that's also, when I'm able to do that, is what also makes a very successful day.
It invigorates you. Like, it does it give you that, just that energy that this is when you do certain things and that
Yeah,
you don't realize it until you do it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't, and so I think that, and I think that's what you're talking about.
exactly. Because it goes back to my why. It's, I start to understand, okay, this is what it's all about at the end of the day. It's truly making a difference, one person, one a day at a time. And the lives here that have been changed because we have said to people coming out of prison, homeless shelters, hey, we see you, we believe in you. I mean, that truly changes the trajectory of someone's life that they may otherwise not have. And when you can just stop and just look at someone and they truly know that you are seeing them, I mean, we all want that in life. And so, yeah, I mean, that definitely just, it takes me to a whole nother level, because it's all about just, okay, if it's just one person, the rest, it really puts everything else into perspective. So I can be having a hard day, maybe some lost distribution, but put all that aside, I can go down on a manufacturing line, hear someone's story and how this job changed their life. It's like, okay, this matters. This work matters.
Yeah, totally. Well, Kristen, thank you. This was awesome. It was so nice to get to know you and hear about you. And I really appreciate you sharing your story with me.
Yeah, Lisa, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening to me and allowing me to share some of my stories. So I appreciate you.
No, it was awesome. And thank you for watching. And always, if you have someone, a marketer, woman marketer, who you want to hear more from, hear about, please let me know and I will do my best to get them. So thanks again for watching. And thanks again, Kristen.
Thanks.